Well, welcome back to A&A. Today we have 1997 Jeep Wrangler. This would be the TJ. And we've had this belongs to a friend of mine, and it's really cool vehicle. It had been sitting up for a few years when they bought it. And we gave it a tune up, did a few odd and end things, put some new bumpers on it. Then we changed the oil. When we were taking the old oil filter off, it was on so tight I almost couldn't get it off with the filter wrench. So we changed the oil. Shortly after that, my friend noticed that the underside of it was basically coated with oil. Not sure how much of that we can see, but it is there's a lot of oil under there. And thought we may have had the wrong oil filter, because the old filter that came off was not the same size as the one the auto parts store said was supposed to fit the Jeep. Anyway, we got another oil filter that matched the original, thinking that was the case. It didn't help. So I gotta lay down for a minute. So the both filters, it didn't seem to help. Anyway, thinking that since the original filter was on so tight, maybe they knew something we didn't, and so we tightened this filter up about as much as I could. Still had an oil leak. So we got to track down where the oil is coming from, and it's hard to see because of the air conditioning lines and what have you. What I may do is, just to get it to where we can see what we're doing, this air conditioning system is kaput anyway. What I may do is take those lines loose, move that AC compressor out of the way, so maybe we can actually see something. I don't think we're dealing with anything major. I think we have possibly a distributor gasket leaking. The oil pressure sending unit is right there. You can see it right there. And the oil filter is right there, up there. So it's all right there. That's the side it's leaking on. It's around that area. Just not been able to see very well because the stuff is in the way. I think I'm going to move this AC compressor out of the way. Probably go ahead and disconnect those lines, at least right here, so I can pull those back out of the way so we can kind of see what's going on. But I feel pretty certain there's a gasket. Sometimes those oil sending units will crack. Maybe it's leaking there. I don't know. But Google, doing the Google thing on the internet, this apparently is a common issue with these Jeeps. This Jeep has the 2.5 4-cylinder in it. So I know that on some of those Jeeps there is a oil filter adapter that basically turns the oil filter and makes it vertical instead of this one's kind of at a, it's not quite a 45, but this particular engine doesn't have an oil filter adapter, so we're not leaking there. But anyway, let me get some of the stuff out of the way, and I'll get you back in here. So, having gotten the compressor moved out of the way, it looks like it may be coming from that distributor mount. If I can get you down in there. It can't be coming from the filter. I'm convinced of that. And it looks like it could be coming from, see, if it was coming from the oil pressure sending unit right there, I would think that would show a lot more around it. There's really a lot around that distributor right there. It's not loose. The little hold down clamp is holding it, but I don't know about the gasket. Could be gone. And of course, as you're driving, everything's going to get blown towards the back. So I think what I may do is loosen that hold down bolt right there. That's your hold down clamp for your distributor. Loosen that bolt. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to mark. I'm going to index everything so we get everything right back in the same place. But when I pull it out, I'm thinking I'm going to see a dry rotted gasket that's leaking. But anyway, I'm going to take the distributor cap off. Let me get my, I'm going to take some brake clean, and I'll fix to get some of this wet oil out of my way so I can actually make some marks with a little paint. All right. So I've marked on the distributor where my rotor is aligned with on the distributor. My distributor that ear is lined up with that wire right there, just on the inside of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this distributor out, but as I pull it out, my rotor is going to turn because it's a gear on the bottom of this, and as you pull it out, you know, your gear is meshing with the other gear. That's going to start to turn. When I start to pull this out, wherever that stops, I'm going to make another mark. That way I'll know when I start to put this back in, the rotor should line up with the first mark, and then when I fully insert it, it should line up with the second mark. That's just a redneck way of keeping things straight. So I'll pull the distributor out. There is no gasket on the block, and it's very wet. The light may be too bright, but it is very wet around around that distributor, and I'm feeling pretty confident that's where it's coming from. But I've never known that much oil to be. I guess it could circulate through there. This is the distributor, and there's no gasket on the bottom of it. There's what looks like there's a metal bushing. That's not a gasket. So I don't know. I'm going to put a gasket. I have some gasket maker. I don't have the gasket, the official technical gasket that goes on here. There is one. But I have some gasket maker in here, or gasket material, I should say. I've had it for years. I cut out miscellaneous gaskets out of it. I guess what I'm going to do here, all I need is to measure the diameter of this, and then cut me about maybe a 5/16 wide gasket. I'll show you how to do that. It's pretty simple. So here's where the rotor wound up at when I pulled it out. So I'll need to line that back up. I'll need to line it up with that mark. And then when I set it down in there, it'll finish rotating and should wind up aligned with that mark. So, and this here is the one that was lined up with the wire loom. Yeah, this thing has been leaking. Man, I don't think it was leaking like this when they bought it, or maybe it was and we had not driven it enough to realize it. I don't know, but anyway, it's leaking now. We're gonna clean it off real good. We'll clean the other surface off real well, and we're gonna put us a homemade gasket on there. And then if it still leaks, we know we can rule this part out. This just for educational purposes, the end of your distributor slides down into a slot in your oil pump, and so this drives your oil pump. This gear rides on your camshaft. So as your engine is running, camshaft is turning, which is turning this, which in turn turns this, which in turn turns your oil pump. Just FYI. Let's see if I can find. I have had this for a long time, and it's always come in handy, even the scraps I save, because don't throw away a scrap like that, because you can cut gasket out. The battery in my caliper is dead, but it's all right. We can still use the what does that measure? 1 and so it's about an inch and a 1/16. So about an inch and a 1/16. So now I got to draw Now, if I had some real drawing tools, I'd be in good shape. We have to do this the hard way though, so. So my goal is going to be to cut on the outside of the line. That will give me my inside hole. Alright, if I cut on the outside line, that'll give me my inside hole. But, tell you what we can do. So if we cut on the outside of the line, now this ain't gonna be pretty, so y'all don't be expecting that. I'm gonna freehand this. I know y'all are losing y'all stuff right now, but I think it's gonna turn out just fine. As long as I don't mess it up. Nobody will ever see it. That's our outside diameter. Now we're going to cut our inside diameter. Let's try to cut on the line, and then if we have to make adjustments, we can. Can always cut more. It's going to be hard to piece it back on there though once we cut it off. You can get this gasket material anywhere, auto parts store. I bought 2 rolls. I bought this paper, and I had a roll of cork that I've had at least 20 years, and I've never used it all. Still got bits and pieces in the drawer over there. Beautiful. Let's see how it fits. Oh, I think I need to cut some more off of it. It's all right. It's all right. Let's just cut on inside of this radius a little bit. Cut some more off. Uh-oh. That's what you don't want to happen, okay? All right. So, you get the idea. I'm going to work on this. Good thing I've got some more laying here. I'm going to get this cut out, and then I'll get you back in here. Okay. Had to get the scissors out and spend a little more time on it, but there we are. It's a little thin over here. It's a little close to the side, but this is going to work, I think. All right, so we're going to lay this here. I'm going to go out there, and I'm going to clean off the other mating surface, and I'll bring you with me to reinstall. Hope you guys are going to be able to see this. My flashlight will work correctly. Clean this mating surface off as best I can. It does look like it's coming from here, but I mean there's oil everywhere, and we're going to hope that this is it. What we'll do is, once we get this bolted back down, we'll start the Jeep up, and check around this to see if we can notice any seepage. All right, so take our distributor. So now if you'll remember, our rotor, when we took it out, when we took the distributor out, rotor ended up on the thicker mark right there that I painted. So we're going to go back in with it. We'll have to hold on to that rotor because it's wanting to, as I'm bumping around with the shaft and everything, it's wanting to turn. So see if I can't. Yeah, let's get it started first. All right. So it was something like that right there. And then let's go on down with it and see where it winds up. Nope, that ain't it. All right, so it's off. So what I need to do is I'm gonna put it back up. No, take it back down. I think I've got it too far the other way. Let's see. Okay, so now you may have noticed something, and I have noticed it too, and I don't know why it is, but with the distributor back in the block, my rotor does not line up with the mark I made. This is the mark I made with the distributor sitting in the block like it is now. The wide mark there is the mark I made after I pulled the distributor out. This rotor button was pointing over there. So they don't line up anymore. Why? I don't know. I really don't. So the only way that this distributor will sit down in the block flush like it's supposed to is when the bottom of that distributor shaft with the flat end on it engages the slot that's in the oil pump, allowing the distributor to sit all the way down flush. If it doesn't engage the slot in the oil pump, the distributor will lack about that much going all the way down. So if I rotate this rotor button 180 degrees, which will be 180 degrees off, it'll go in because we're dealing with a flat. So it's either this way or 180 degrees off. And I made my mark based on the brass tab over on this side. I don't know why my marks aren't lining up. It's a puzzle to me. The engine hasn't been rotated. Nobody's tried to start it. I don't know. It's a puzzle. The distributor can't rotate because of the hold down that's made into the distributor casing. It's not like an old style distributor where you adjust the timing by twisting the distributor. So I don't know. It's a puzzle and makes me a little uneasy, but I do not know. I don't know how in the world that would have happened. So we may all be learning something here. If the Jeep doesn't start, well, we will know that it's off somehow. Anyway, I just don't know. One thing that could cause that is if, and I'll take this hold down back off, is if the roll pin that this roll pin here that holds the gear on, sometimes I've never known them to come out or anything like that. There's nothing's loose, nothing's come out. This bracket here is made into the casing of the distributor, so there's no way that could have turned. The rotor button hasn't been off. Nobody's rotated the engine. It's a puzzle, very much a puzzle. All right, so let's get this back in here because, I mean, it's really, I don't know why it didn't line up. So we may all be learning something new today. That's why I painted my mark. But anyway, so if we get this back in here flush like it was, I mean, it goes right back in there. And so we're going to call that right. We'll find out soon enough. Scoot back over there so I can get my bolt in. It's not enough room for big hands or big fingers in there. It's about as tight as I can get it from here. A little crow's feet sockets you put on your ratchet, that would work probably the best. I don't think I have any of those. That should be plenty tight enough. But anyway, so I don't know, man. My rotor button doesn't match up with the marks, but it's definitely in the oil pump. All I know to do is put it back together and let's see what happens. I mentioned that the air conditioner was kaput, and this air conditioning line, the air cleaner was laying over here, and the head of the screw had ridden right here on this air conditioner line for who knows how many years, and it wore a hole in the air conditioner line. So don't know how long that had been done, but long enough to where if the customer decides to put AC back on the Jeep, all of your air conditioning components will need to be replaced, because there are it's now contaminated with who knows what's in there. Moisture's been in there for sure. Now, if she didn't want air conditioning back on here, we could do away with the compressor, the hoses, and the condenser, get all that stuff out of the engine compartment, and then make a little, basically like a idler pulley to go here in place of this compressor. Cleans your engine compartment up, gets all that stuff out of there. I think I had that backwards. That was a 13 millimeter for that air conditioning compressor. Now the 14 millimeter is what I need for to get the belt back tight. Belt tensioner is it's right here. So let's see if we can't get this belt back on. That around there. That goes on there. See if we can remember all this. Let's see. That probably, it doesn't look right. Yeah, that goes there. That goes there. Something like that, maybe, I think. Not 100% sure, but I think maybe sort of. Just got to get it on there now. Something's not lined up exactly. Let's try this. Put it on that one. Let's go over here. Let's go over here and try that. Stay. It looks like it should be right. Should be. It looks right to me. Slow's loose, and it's just a little bit more. It's the wrong one. I gotta get a 15. Not a 14, 15. If I'm not careful, I could start talking to myself. Okay, I think we're cooking with gas now. Let's see. Kind of looks right. Looks right enough, I think. Alright, now we can start tightening the tensioner. It's just a little bracket on the back side of this accessory plate that is bringing the idler pulley in tighter. Just remember, not too tight. There are dangers to getting your belt too tight. You start wearing out the bearings in your accessories like alternator and power steering pump and stuff like that. Get expensive. Alright, I think we're getting there. I think we may settle for that. I don't want to get it too tight. Alright, let's stop there. So, with your tensioner tight, now you have to tighten your idler pulley bolt, and this is another bolt right here to tighten. I think those are the 14 ones. Oh, there's a 14 that fits something. Let's see. The trick is getting my socket back. Okay. Alright, your idler pulley bolt is 15. So it appears to be a mixture of 14 and 15. Thank you, Jeep. Or Chrysler, I should say. Why do you loosen the bolt on the tensioner? your tensioner pulley bolt is attached to the bracket for your belt tensioner bolt up here up top. That's what it pushes on. It pushes on your tensioner pulley. And then this other bolt is the plate that it all rides on. So those three bolts, tensioner pulley, this whole bolt for the plate, which is right beside your belt tensioner bolt, those all have to be adjusted. Now, I think we're ready to see if it will still crank. Well, that's a mystery as to why my marks didn't line up, but you still started running great. It does have an exhaust leak. Not sure if you can tell that, but I'm gonna let it run and idle for a little while, and I'm gonna keep a watch on it to see what it looks like after a few minutes. See where it starts seeping from. I hope that was it. It looked to be like what it was, but either it was leaking like that when they bought it, because I was with them when we picked. I actually was with their son when we picked it up. Either we just didn't notice it until the point that we noticed it recently, or it was leaking and just eventually made its way down and started dripping. I don't know. I really don't. Anyway, we may still have a leak. I just don't know. I'm gonna let it idle and watch it for a little bit. So you guys hang tight, and I'll get you back in here in a minute. Oh, I run into a little problem. It is the next day. It cranked. You saw it. And then I told you we was gonna let it run for a little bit, and then we was gonna check for leaks. So I turned the camera off, and the Jeep just went dead. It was running great. The Jeep just went dead. So, I mean, it's a strange coincidence. You know, we're sitting there fooling around with the distributor and doing things, and it just dies. But it happens. So that's either a fuel issue or a ignition issue. And the way it sounded, the way it kind of sputtered and died, leads me to believe that it's an ignition issue. So I have what I call my tattletale. It's a light that's goes between. You can either hook it up to between a spark plug and a distributor, or you can hook it up between your coil wire and a distributor to see where your spark has failed at. So I hooked it up to a spark plug. You put it in line. You take the plug wire off. I'll show it to you. It's basically a plug wire with a light in line. Now I've got it attached to the coil wire. Kind of hard to see down in there, but anyway, one end is going to the coil, the other end is going to the center post on your distributor cap, which is where your coil wire typically plugs into. And I'm gonna put this I'll see if I can't wedge this to where y'all can help me look at it while I crank the Jeep over. All right, I'm gonna crank it over. You tell me if you see that lighting up. The hell, what'd you see? All right, no light. So, and that's coming straight from the coil. So that's a good, sure sign that the coil is bad. And the coil is, let's see if we can spot it. If I can get you down in here far enough. All right, I'll sit under there, pointing to it right there. That's it. All right, so I've got you in the best spot I can get. It's not any good way to get you in here, but here's the ignition coil right here. Here's your air conditioning condenser right here. Your coil is just here below the firewall, and it's held on by a clamp with what I think is a 10mm bolt right here on the side. Move these plug wires over. Let me move this one too. You might can see better. Yeah, that's a little better. So, a little bolt right here. I think it's a 10. We're gonna try a 10 on it, and then this should come on off. It's like just a little bracket that being held on with. So, all right, see if I can get a. Not even gonna be enough room in here. Not much room. I'm gonna have to get a ratcheting wrench. All right, let's try this ratcheting wrench here, see if we can. I don't think it's a 10. Smaller than a 10. It's been 8. That's 10. Where am I? There we go. Oh, there's a nut on the back. Joy. I got to get 2 hands in here. Barely room for 1. And I have 1 hand in there to hold that nut. That's on the other side. Don't drop it. Okay. And we should be able to get this off. I don't know, dude. Oh, there's another bolt back there. Great. All right. Oh, actually, looks like it might be easier to get to it from the bottom, at least to loosen it. I may have to take this whole bracket off. This may be easier to do that. So this bracket is held on by 2 stud bolts, and you'll need a 13 millimeter for those. One of the stud bolts has 2 ground wires connected to it. You'll want to make sure and put those back when you bolt this back on. Our weather here lately has been nothing but hot. It's a lot of humidity. We're here in Mississippi, and there's an awful lot of humidity. And my everyday job is in an air-conditioned space. So whenever I get outside and try to actually do something, and when our heat index has been well over 100, makes for some pretty tough going here anyway. So this bracket, this coil is bolted to the bracket is bolted to the block, and these having the nuts that aren't welded onto the bracket, it's very difficult to get a wrench on the back of these with it on the truck. So I would just recommend just taking the whole bracket off from underneath, because you can get to the stud bolts better that way. I got my new ignition coil. We'll want to make sure that everything gets bolted back correctly. So the bracket will go on the back side in the same orientation it is right there. I used to not look at that stuff and get in a hurry, because taking apart is easier than put together a lot of times. But then you get it apart and you're like, was this turned this way or this way? So be mindful when you're taking this stuff apart. So the coils are orientated the same. We can put our bolts back. Actually, before we do, let's clean this bracket up just a little bit. Pretty sure it grounds through this. So see if we can't clean it up some on the wire wheel. That'll help. Okay. All right, now all we gotta do is bolt it back into the Jeep. All right, I didn't bother hooking up the tattletale again because, well, and if it don't fire this time, it's definitely not the coil, so I'm pretty confident it is. Let's see what happens. We need to like get it started again so we can move on to what we were doing, and that's looking for to see if we had the oil leak fixed. It doesn't concern me that it could be a gasket, like a, you know, maybe it's the oil sending unit leaking, which I don't think it is. Maybe it's the distributor gasket leaking, which very, very possible. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. What I want to definitely rule out is a rear main seal leaking. If that's the case, either the engine or the transmission is going to have to come out. Probably the transmission would probably be easier, but I don't really want to have to get into that, so just hoping we got it fixed. As soon as I find the key. All right. Now we're back to where we left off. I guess where we started from yesterday. Seeing if we got our oil leak fixed. It just, you know, those coincidences happen. You think, well, I had to have done something to have caused that, but no. It just happens. So anyway, I'm not going to turn the camera off this time though, so if it dies, you can witness that. But let's move around, and as it's warming up, oil circulating, let's look and see if we can see any oil seepage. So right there is our new ignition coil, and it's doing a great job apparently. So if the rear main seal is leaking, we should be seeing some drippage coming from in there. What we do see is drippage from there. The starter is coated in oil, which, you know, everything leaks down, it goes down, so it's catching whatever. This rail is drenched. So you see little droplets here. You see little droplets on the oil pan right here. You might say, well, maybe it's an oil pan gasket leak, but that wouldn't explain the oil from up top around the distributor. So let's just let it run and see what we see. Yeah, it's got a bad exhaust leak. The exhaust manifold flange, the bolts are very, very loose. I haven't tried to attempt to loosen those or tighten those or replace those, because I know as soon as I put a wrench on it, they're probably going to break off. So we're saving that. So all I'm seeing is, you would only be seeing something dripping from there, but I don't see anything dripping from there. Let's go up top and put the flashlight on the distributor mount. See if we see any seepage there. If not, we're just going to have to run it and see what happens. I want to attempt to show this to you guys. So I don't see any seepage around the distributor mount right now. And there's definitely none coming from the oil pressure sensor, oil sending unit, whatever you're going to call it, right there, which is sometimes where the leak. Currently, right now, doesn't appear to be any leaking from the distributor. Hopefully, I say hopefully, that was the case, maybe. But there is an awful lot of oil under there for it to be just that, so I'm cautiously optimistic. Cautiously optimistic is still optimistic. But I would say that since we tried the previous fix before the distributor gasket, you know, we just tried to tighten the oil filter, thinking that maybe the oil filter mounting surface was somehow boogered up. Since then, we only lost about 1/4 of a quart of oil. So, and that was probably a good bit of driving, you know, a couple 100 miles or something like that. So, it's not leaking when the Jeep is sitting still. It's leaking when it's being driven. So, hoping that was it. If it's a rear main seal, which I don't think it is, I would think we would be seeing some drips coming from that little vent hole I showed you. If it's a rear main seal, we should be seeing more coming out of there. So if it is that, then we'll be probably dropping the transmission to put a rear main seal in. But we're gonna drive it, gonna take a look, see what it looks like after a couple 100 miles. We'll keep a check on the oil. If this didn't fix it, you'll see probably another video on the Wrangler. Good little Jeep, runs great, fun to drive. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. If you have to get an ignition coil for yours, slide up under there, take the bracket and the coil off altogether, pull it from the bottom, put it back in that way. It's easier, trust me. Y'all have a good day. Always remember, please be kind to one another. We are all we have. See you next time.